So all the sections are up making stuff, because I was thinking about the phrase making love, which I always hated, and then was like questioning why I hate it. Like if I feel really weird about a word or a phrase, I like to question like why it is that my whole body has like the ick, like people say. It's like, well, so why do you have it? It's not just natural, it's not like instinctual.
No.
It's probably cultural or social or whatever. There's these ideas of like women being damaged goods if they've had another, basically if they had another person's penis in you. That's all it is. It's like so blunt, and they never say it like that. They'll never actually say what they're meaning, but that's all they mean.
Yes,
it's not
yeah.
even how many times they've, you know, you could have had one person and had sex with them 1,000 times, but if you've had sex with 10 different people, your body counts 10, and the other one, your body counts 1. Like the maths is so annoying. I know people hate social media, but I feel like I lived in a world as a teenager and in my 20s where there wasn't like people speaking back to stuff. I was given beauty magazines, which taught me a lot of shit, but there was no one on social media being like, actually, you know, that's maybe not a great thing.
Welcome back to the Sex and Space podcast, Holly. Really thrilled to have you with us again to talk about another book that you've written. And if there is anyone listening who might not have tuned into our first episode with you, could you please introduce yourself and what it is that you do?
Yes, so my name is Hollie McNish, and I'm a writer, but I guess mainly I write poems. And that's normally all I say, but lots of people have much bigger introductions. But yeah, I love writing. I write about lots of different subjects. I write kind of prose poetry, sometimes stories, but this book, Virgin, is mainly poems with a little bit of an introduction at the beginning of each section.
And I thought, just for our listeners who are watching, this is the book. Very beautiful book here, and this is what we're wanting to talk about today in the podcast. What inspired you to write Virgin?
I think just years and years of being told a lot of rubbish about my body and the world, and I was just thinking about, I've been thinking about this a lot anyway, like it's not exactly the same, but it's quite similar. Like the last 2 books were called Slug and Lobster, and they were all about like things that I had been told to hate and didn't want to hate, or things that I'm like learning to try and love but have been like shamed about or been made to feel embarrassed about like all my life. Not just me, like a lot of people in this sort of society, this culture. And then I started thinking about loads of the different things that people sort of shamed me and other people about, like whether that's sex or masturbation or pleasure or your body or certain words for your body. And so much of it seemed to stem from this idea of virginity, like just so much of it. And I started to get a little bit, let me take my earrings out in case it's like banging against the mic, but I started to get a little bit not obsessed, that's like a silly word really, but I started to get like really, really, really interested in where this came from. And I guess also like being a woman is more of a thing, I think, that girls are in a more negative way that is talked about with girls. Not just girls, but especially them. And then I started looking into my family and like just horrible things that have been done, or babies that have been taken away from members of my family when they've given birth out of wedlock, or people that are being forced to get married out of wedlock. And then I started thinking about my own kid, and I think maybe I'm the first woman in my family that has been pregnant, unmarried, and hasn't been then forced to either marry someone or have my kid taken away. And I just kept looking into these like devastating consequences of just this idea of like purity and innocence. And even for me, I guess I've got like teenage daughter, and there were loads of teenagers in my house at the moment, so I overhear conversations, and just thinking that that's still such a concrete thing that we talk about losing your virginity. And I think it's either ridiculous. If you've got quite a nice experience of it, it's a bit ridiculous. Like it can be made to be something special, but so can everything the first time you do it. But in a negative way, I think it is so dangerous. And I was thinking about my own like first experience of intercourse, and it was like nice. It was nice. It wasn't, perfect or anything, but it was lovely. But still, it was so etched into my brain, this idea that you've now like lost the virginity, that I still sort of thought, maybe in a sort of powerful way or in like a negative way, that something about me had changed. And the more I thought about it, I just found it's it's just so ridiculous. It's such a ridiculous idea, and it's so powerful. And I think the word virgin, I think about so much. The word race, I think about so much. Like there's a few different words that have just got far too much power. So that's what is. There's a lot of love poems and stuff in it, but that's what it's about.
It's been really, I think, I'm not sure if weaponized is perhaps the right word to use, but it has been manipulated, I think, in a lot of really, really problematic ways. And I think there was one part in the book you mentioned that there's one meaning or one definition of virgin that you actually like. And I wondered if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, to be honest, I thought about that after. There's a bit in the poem about it, but I wrote this poem about all the things that I haven't done or haven't seen or haven't experienced. That it was because I found out that there were carrots that were purple, and I never knew that before. And to be honest, I've been touring this book now, and everyone seems to have known that for like loads of their life, and I don't understand how everyone knew that. So I discovered maybe a couple years back, I remember going to the market and I was like, what is this? And the guy, really nice guy, so I was like, it's a carrot. What is a purple? Like, and it was just such a like fact. It was a bit like the world is flat sort of fact, and then people are told the world is round. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, there are purple carrots. What the hell? Like that.
Where have they been?
It's been a stable fact of my life that carrots are orange, and then I learned loads about that actually they weren't orange in the first place, and that's been manipulated. And I was like, oh my god, I've been lied to. But I remember it being such a big deal that I found out carrots were purple. Probably not as big a deal as the first time I had intercourse, but you know, it was still like a
but it's still up there.
It's like, what? So I wrote this poem, and the other idea of virgin is just that you're inexperienced in something. Like we've got this one idea, which is like you're just someone that hasn't had, I don't know, 3 seconds of intercourse, or God forbid, like rape, and that apparently is the only thing on this whole planet in this human body that I've been told has the power to like change your status as a human being. Is that's it, like nothing else. All the things we go through. So I wrote this poem about all these other things that I still want to do. Partly I think because there's this kind of slight attitude when you're younger that like you're a baby, then a toddler, then like a child, then a teenager, and then an adult. An adult then is like the same. You know, whatever.
Actually,
at 25, I guess the brain is like fully developed apparently. So at 25, you're an adult, and then it's like nothing changes. And I've had like when I was getting into my 30s, there was lots of even mates and stuff just being like, oh, I don't know if we can do that anymore, or I'm too old for that, or like this sort of like, oh, I can't start playing the guitar now, or oh, I always wanted to learn to dance, or I always, you know. And it's like you're only 30. Like if all being well, you've got another like 2 of your entire lives without like the baby year.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's just about learning new things and being inexperienced at stuff, basically.
I really like that sentiment. And I think another thing I want to touch on is you created this really nice sort of juxtaposition between this idea of body count and then this idea that like secondhand stores have of something being pre-loved. And you were talking about this idea of, I think you said here, like something in your life already being loved by others, something with a past, a story, experience, knowledge, something to treasure for exactly that reason. And I wondered if you could speak to that a little bit for us.
Yeah, so I know they're not entirely the same, but there's a section called like making memories. All the sections are up making stuff, because I was thinking about the phrase making love, which I always hated, and then was like questioning why I hate it. Like if I feel really weird about a word or a phrase, I like to question like why it is that my whole body has like the ick, like people say. It's like, well, so why do you have it? It's not just natural, it's not like instinctual. It's probably cultural or social or whatever. And I was wondering why I hated that so much. And then I was thinking, actually, making love, like the idea of making love like in any way is a really nice idea. So why do I hate it? And then I thought, well, all this shame has been made as well. Like all this hate has been made. All of these myths have been made by someone, so I can remake them or I can unmake them or whatever. And then, I was thinking about this idea of body count, which, it does my head in so much, but it's just the same as, you know, everything that's come before about this idea of people being impure. And this sort of fear or like disgust or just putting down about experience, like the idea that if somebody's got experience or if somebody's like been with someone else, then that's necessarily a bad thing, which really, like, if you take that to its extreme, would become really fucking paedophilic, I think, which is what scares me a lot. And it also, I think for a lot of women as they've got older, it also totally puts down older women, especially this idea of like gaining experience in life, not being as good as being inexperienced or being less knowledgeable. And body count, I think, because it's mainly straight guys I see doing that. I know everyone kind of talks about it under the age of like, I don't know, 30. Not everyone, but that's sort of the age range that I see ever talking about it. But it's mainly straight guys that I see having a problem with it, as has always been the case, really. And the idea with pre-loved stuff, it's like there's these ideas of like women being damaged goods if they've had another, basically if they had another person's penis in you, that's all it is. It's like so blunt, and they never say it like that. They'll never actually say what they're meaning, but that's all they mean. It's not even how many times they've, you know, you could have had one person that had sex with them 1,000 times, but if you've had sex with 10 different people, your body counts 10 and the other one, your body counts 1. Like, the maths is so annoying. But yeah, then I was thinking about this idea of, you know, at the moment, them trying to really push like single use clothing, even like the idea of single use clothing, like fills me with absolute horror. But I saw that a lot of secondhand, they used to be called secondhand clothes or used clothing places, are now quite often calling themselves vintage or pre-loved, which like just gives such a more positive attitude about the idea of someone having been loved before. And obviously someone could have also been not loved before, and then you've got somebody with trauma or issues that they might have to deal with. But that is also like part of someone being human. And if you know, falling in love with someone or you're friends with someone, then the idea that you wouldn't want someone because they've either got experience or they've got sadness or they've got, you know, previous knowledge of something, I just think is gross. I'm really bored of it. I'm so bored of it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think I really like that sort of more positive reframing of it, and kind of loving someone for the fact that they've been loved before, or that, you know, that they have lived a life before.
Totally. And I think it's
yeah.
just possession, really, isn't it? Like most of it's just about someone having been really
control, possession. The whole thing. And I want to move on to another poem, Water Slide, which or maybe if you'd be willing to read it for us, and then maybe I can ask you a couple of questions about it, please.
Yeah, it's so nice being asked to read this one because I've never read it, just because it's like a longer poem. And I wasn't sure about the first line, to be honest. Every editor I had tried to make me change it. So I think that's why I've not read it. Because they were like, I don't understand. What do you mean everything turned to tulips? And I was like, I don't really know exactly what it means. But I just really like the idea of everything just being like up in the air. They were like, but tulips aren't that. I was like, I know, but this got alliteration and I like the sound of it. So yeah, don't be put off by the first line is what I'd say before I start reading it. Because no one apart from me seemed to like it.
I'm glad that you stuck with it, though.
Yeah. I'm glad I stuck with it as well. I wrote this one after my boyfriend got really excited when I was in pajamas doing my tax return, and I'd not been told that anyone would ever get turned on by either of those things. Water slide. Well, that's just great then. Everything we learned turned to tulips. Do you know how many magazines were folded so neat inside my needy teenage brain when I could have been licking honey from the cold curve of a pudding spoon? You call it honey, as if inside me a hive buzzes sweetness to steal with a tongue tip. Lord, oh, those articles I scoured, searching help growing up. How to bag a man, what to wear in summer, how to fuck whilst holding in your stomach, how to wrap a single sexy lock of hair around your index finger, smiling gratefully as if your candy floss brain may be guzzled by a single soggy raindrop. We gathered top 10 tips like saving seeds from extinction. All that lingerie I persisted with, clingy, cheap fabric sweating into metal poppers clipped into my crotch scratching, as if my vulva were an etcher's sketch. The unbuttoning too fiddly for public toilets nearly pissed myself. Underwiring uplift, slicing bloody crescent moons at each side of my breasts. High heels, scraping half the skin from flimsy ankles as we stripped danced drunk in every club for guys who pick their noses when they drive. Now, on your sofa, me in my yellow striped pajamas, filling in this online tax application, and you are stalagmite excited by the combination of keyboard taps and cotton as you feed me another chip dipped in mayonnaise and mustard, my left hand typing formula into a multicolored spreadsheet, right hand on your throbbing, as if I didn't even need to wash all of those cars in that tiny red bikini, all that swimwear I couldn't even swim in, descending water slides in panic, desperately clutching my fanny lips inside the minimal material so I didn't flash the children. All those stupid fucking swimsuits, all those stupid fucking tan lines, crisscross hopscotch on my back, shoulders burnt on purpose, holding in my stomach, inhaling in swimming pools and bedrooms. They promised that's what sexy was, formula set in stone in every tacky teenage Bible. So what's this? Your fingers playing with the soft folds of a belly I was told would make boys vomit, as you ask me again about the spreadsheet I have built to calculate income and expenses, my formulas revealed with a magic double click, as if you prefer it when I'm comfortable, as if you prefer it when I speak, as if you are not even bothered by all those single strands of hair I've been curling round my fingers all these years, as if you do not give a fuck what swimsuit I am wearing, so long as I can race you down the water slide, arms high up in the air.
I love that poem. I can't even tell you. I mean, and hearing you read it is even better than like seeing it on the page, I have to say. Like, it's one of those things, I think so many of us have fed this certain idea of what it looks like and should feel like to be sexy and to be desired. And I think reading that is kind of like, and it's not just in this book, but in I was reading Lobster maybe a couple of months ago as well. And it kind of just like not rewires my brain, but kind of makes me go, oh, actually, like, I've been on this kind of autopilot of this is how things should be. And then it's just kind of that jolt and you go, actually, maybe not. And it's so nice. It's so refreshing, I think, to read that and to hear that.
Oh, that's so
and I
nice
wondered,
because, sorry, go on.
no, you go.
I was just going to say it's so nice to hear that because it's literally how I feel when I'm writing it. I'm like trying to convince myself that this is true because I know it's true, but culture is so strong about what is sexy. Like every fucking day you're told what is sexy, and every day there's these videos of people like every woman wants a man in the gym or every man only likes women, like, and it's such bollocks. Like, it's such bollocks. If you actually look at people together and look at actual like couples and look at people on the street, it's just not the case that everyone's walking around only dating bodybuilders or 6-foot tall models or whatever it is we're talking about, or people in certain lingerie, or people like, it's just not true. And the idea the idea that sexy is like the same thing for everyone, but it takes a lot to like rethink it. It takes a lot.
It does. I think especially because we're constantly being sort of fed that from so many different sources. And so you come across something like this, like a poem, and you read it and you're like, yes, like absolutely. And then 4 days later, you've gone back to the autopilot. So it's one of those things that I do.
Me too.
Like, I do leave it on my wardrobe next to my mirror, like with the little like things coming out of it. And sometimes I'm like, right, I need to read this because, I mean, as a reader, it has been very much like a reset. And I wondered if you could speak maybe a little bit about how your perception of what it means to be sexy has changed or is changing over time.
Yeah, to be honest, I think, and a lot of people say it, but I think it's like 30s really when I started to, and I think it's because that's when you get out of what the worst and most narrow group is telling you. And I don't know if it's the same now, but I feel like when I was in my teens and 20s, I think it was something like 95% of films were written by men, and directed by men. The sex scenes were mainly 95% of them directed by men. So the words coming out of like women's mouths, and I'm talking, to be honest, straight sex scenes, because queer cinema is a bit different. But the sort of main Hollywood movies and stuff that I was watching, and it's not just that they were written by men, it's that they were written by these certain powerful men. Like so many of the movies and stuff I was watching were written by or directed by men who are like now in prison for like sexual assault, or should be in prison, or have had massive things come out about them, you know, all this sort of stuff. So it's not that it's men, it's that it's these men. And so there was, you know, the age gap in movies was so much bigger than the actual age gap in most relationships, straight relationships, much older men, much younger women. Like the age of actresses was so much less. Like once people reached 40, it was like they weren't even there anymore. So it was like those were the people really that I was learning from. People making, for me, probably MTV videos and movies. And then the books as well that I was writing, that I was reading at school. I don't think there was maybe one woman on my curriculum until I was 21 at university. Like that, I read one book by a woman at school and uni. Everything else was really about men or written by men. And so I think is once you come out, because there's not really those sort of men that the sort of men that are like, I will only date, you know, someone under 25 sort of thing. They're not putting anyone under 25, anyone over that age in their movies. So I guess, or in their adverts or in their videos or whatever. So I think when I got to about 30, I was like, oh, I'm not like, you don't fancy me anymore. Like those men don't fancy me anymore. But loads of other people still do, and loads of other people not even fancy, but it's not even about fancying, it's about giving time to those women. Like they don't give a shit what a woman over 30 says. The sort of men that are writing half of the things that I was reading, like they really don't give a shit. And a lot of men that I was brought up with, they really don't give a shit what women are saying. Like they don't care. That's when I think we're sort of trying to be like, oh, if only they would listen. It's like they don't care. They're not reading books written by you. They're not watching movies about women. They don't give a shit. Like those ones. Not all of them, but those ones. And I think, yeah, it was finally stepping out of, I couldn't see myself in those things anymore. So it was like easier then to like to actually think about it. Like I wasn't being given a picture of what a sexy 30-year-old woman was like. Apart from, to be honest, in movies and stuff written by people that I actually respected more, that started making me think about things a lot more. But I also think it was just being in relationships, like, and realizing, what am I doing? And one thing, I bought some like sexy underwear, and this guy, and it was like in my 30s, and I was like, oh yeah. And I remember buying it and being like, yeah, I think it was like a some teddy suit thing. And it was like properly uncomfortable. And I know, don't get me wrong, there's some lace and lingerie and whatever. It's like, that is sexy sometimes, but it's like literally what suits you on that day, at that time in your life. It's changing all the time, man. It changes from Sunday to Monday, what I think is sexy, all time of the day or whatever. But I put this on and I was so uncomfortable. Like it was quite cheap and it was itchy and it like clipped at the like gusset, and it was uncomfortable, and I was wearing it like all day underneath my jeans, and it was like scratching me and it was uncomfortable under the boobs. And then when I like showed it, he just sort of stood there and was like, I don't know what to do. And it was, like, and it wasn't an awful, like it was sort of awful, and then it was really funny. But I was like, oh, I sort of thought you'd like this. And he was like, no, I mean, I think like the body's beautiful, but it's not what you've ever got from me. Like I've never, there's nothing. Have I given the impression that that's what I want you to be uncomfortable? Like uncomfortable in this clothes? Oh. And it's not like never, sometimes someone might love that and I might love it. But it was just like, it just felt horrible on me and it felt uncomfortable. And I'm like sexiest when I'm like feeling nice fabrics and like feeling warm and feeling safe. And there's so many studies done that that's when people feel sexy, whatever you're doing, you know, whatever you want. But it was just a really funny moment. And I was like nothing, this was not about me because I didn't really like wearing it. And it wasn't about him because he never, it's just because I've been told it. I was like, oh my God, I'm really doing something now because like fucking Harvey Weinstein in a film told me to do this. And then I started questioning after that, to be honest, everything. I was thinking, do I want to go to a pool party? No. Do I think that is sexy to have cocaine sniffed off of my tits? No, I genuinely don't. I genuinely don't want someone to do it. But I genuinely did think I did want someone to do that when I was 20 because it was in all these like glamorous videos and stuff. And it's like, no, I don't want it. Like, that's not, but it's really hard to jig your brain because it's not just an innate thing. Like your sexual desires and stuff is built off a lot of what you experience and what you see.
Yeah, 100%. And it becomes so ingrained. And so, like you say, it's kind of hard to recognize at what point it's what you want and at what point it's what someone else has told you that you want.
Yeah, totally.
Totally.
It's such a massive thing. And I think that's the kind of like more like babyish, and I really do mean babyish, I guess, side of things. Like I was brought up with so many pictures of like girls my age when I was like 18, 19, like sucking lollipops or like I remember like Miley Cyrus like hugging like a big teddy bear, and it's really like all this stuff really infantilizing because some people do find it sexy, but I think that is pushed so much. And actually the more that, I think that's what scares me about stuff, like the more something is pushed, the more I did find it sexy. Like I did find it not only sort of copying things, but it did also become something that I thought was a turn on. Like I kept thinking, oh yeah, it would be really sexy for me to like suck like a child's sweet. So I, you know, stuff like that. And it's like, it's so hard to differentiate between what's, you know, what pedophiles have told you to do on television for years, basically, to be blunt, and what you actually think is nice. And also this idea of not being seen anymore. I remember a woman who was like in her 50s, somebody else was saying, you're just not seen anymore once you're in your 50s. And she was like, I don't believe it. Like I'm asked out all the time, like you're married with a husband, you're at home, like you don't go out but you're not seen, but you're not dating, like you're not out there. Like it's not true that there aren't people being chatted up in their 50s or 60s or 70s or whatever. You're just not being, maybe you're not being fucking catcalled by people because they know you're less vulnerable and you're more likely to turn around and tell them to fuck off. You know, there's so much of this idea. And I that made a big difference. Working in a shop as well with 3 women who were in their 40s and 50s when I was 20, and they were like, no, this isn't the best time. Like, you're not having the best sex. Like, you're not. And I remember them saying, do you have orgasms? I was like, you know, all this sort of thing. And yeah, I've believed far too much about 10% of the men in the world. And I've not listened to the other 90% of men, and I've not really listened to any women at all, I think, when I was a teenager.
A great way of putting it. It's like that minority and their voices are the loudest. And so we're all, so many of us, like listening to what they have to say. And then you kind of get to a point where you're like, oh, maybe I've just realized that these are not the voices that I want to be listening to. And these are not the opinions that I want to be absorbing into my own life. But it's hard to get there when it's, you know, you grow up like a sponge.
Yeah, totally. And I think they're the loudest, like, anti-women voices and anti-older women voices. And they are anti-young women because they don't talk about, like, it was never like they talked about teenage girls or women in their 20s as if they were anything more than, like, a body. It's not like they were really pro teenage girls and women either. I looked back on the films that I watched when I was a teenager as well. And there was 3 that I remember actually like wanting to watch again and again. And it was Legally Blonde. I don't know if you've seen any of these, but Legally Blonde, Dirty Dancing, and there was like a history of Tina Turner, like the story of Tina Turner's life. And I was I remember them having a real effect on me. And I looked back at all the films that I'd watched, and I think they were the only 3 that had been written or directed by women. And they were the ones that I remember thinking, oh, yeah. And then I looked at all the other ones that I'd watched, and I was like, oh, yeah, they're not. And it's not obviously as like clear cut as that, but it is interesting to look at like the media.
Yeah.
And if like, I think now still
Absolutely.
if a writing team's got like one woman in it, then the likelihood of it like passing this Bechdel test of there actually being women doing something other than being a girlfriend or wife or whatever, it goes up by like 70%. So yeah, but
yeah,
it's hard to
and
get
media.
it
I mean, the
all out of my
media
head.
is just it's so powerful, and it's so pervasive, and it raises generation after generation of people, doesn't it? And so it's hard to kind of get past, unpick those things. But we're getting there. I think.
I know,
We're
it's
making progress.
amazing. I think, oh my God, the difference.
Here we are.
Yeah, it is, but it is. And I've still, like, somebody told me to watch this program, Riot Woman, the other day, which is about like women, I guess about 10 years older than me. And I literally didn't watch it at first because I've still got that shit in my head. And I was like, what's it about? And my friend, who's much less like that, and to be honest, wasn't really, was brought up by men who were also a bit more positive about women. But she was like, oh yeah, it's great. It's about like 5 women that they start a band and they're like going through menopause, and it's about their sort of lives. And as soon as she said it was about 5 women going through menopause, I was literally like in my head, that sounds shit. Like, let's still, even though this is like, it's like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm doing exactly the same. And if she'd have said, oh, it's about 5 guys that are going to like rob a bank, I'd be like, cool. It's about 5 women that start a band and they're in their 50s. And I did it. And I've just watched the like second to last episode, and I've loved it so much. And it's been like, oh, fuck, this is like, and this wouldn't have even never been made, like probably even when my mum was like my age, but I've still definitely got it. Someone recommended me like the Guilty Feminist podcast, and I was like, nah, it's not for me. And it's because it's got the word feminist, and that's after me writing like 4 books, which would definitely be classed as feminist. But if you're not brought up with that not being a bad word, it's really hard to shake it.
Yeah. It's like you sort of spoke about earlier, the way that certain words make you have this very sort of physical reaction. And I think feminist or feminism can definitely be one of them for so many people. So I really get it. But I think it's, being able to recognize and sort of unpick it and go, why do I have this reaction? I think that's really useful, I think.
Me too.
So yeah, really... for our listeners out there, it's a great technique.
Yeah, it is a great technique.
And I think it's really kind of, what's the word? It just gets you to rethink and kind of change your perspective and backtrack a little.
I think
which
so,
is great.
Just because something like makes you like, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. I get the same with breastfeeding. I did a poem about being embarrassed to breastfeed in public.
Oh.
And I remember people like, oh my God, yeah, can you imagine people being embarrassed? Oh my God, that's so bad. But then I was like, nah, because I still feel awkward. Like, I remember thinking after I wrote it, if I'm with a mate whose bits of her boobs I don't normally see and she starts breastfeeding, like, I'm still not accustomed to it enough not to be a little bit like, where do I look? Like this sort of thing. And the idea of that being enough for people to say you shouldn't be allowed to feed a fucking baby in public is ridiculous. So I think that made me question it more than anything. I was like, that is so much a part of this culture. And I don't, it does not in any way mean that it should not be a thing that people are allowed to do, obviously. Yeah, it's sort of fascinating,
Absolutely. Isn't it? It is. Language and the shaming and the way that we feel about words, and it is really interesting. I think I remember we spoke about this last time too. It's just one of those things that I do love to think about, and I think really comes through in your writing as well, which I really enjoy. And another poem I was wondering if maybe you could read is Grown Woman Speaking Like a Baby Alert.
Yeah.
That one, maybe if you read it and then again I'll ask you some questions afterwards.
Yeah, perfect. So you said the title. And this is grown women speaking like a baby alert for anyone like me who hasn't quite managed to shake this habit. I'm not sure when it started, this affliction. Me, a grown-ass woman talking as if I still shat my nappy, simpering coyly, murmuring innocent responses to adult men in the voice of a constipated sparrow, waitressing the world, love me, lollipop stuck permanently in my mouth, head bowed to the ground as if my eyelashes were too heavy for my fragile, bashful face. Oh, don't ask me. I know nothing. It wasn't when I was an actual baby, because then I couldn't speak at all, because then I was allowed to scream when I was hurting, did not pretend to laugh when the tickling irritated, learnt to walk with such self-admiration without worrying how unattractive it might make me to other little babies, admired my learning body. Yet here I am, 30 years on. Ask me a question, and I will giggle, automaton for no real reason, each opinion wrapped in fraying pastel ribbons, vomiting up sorries as if my sentences have a constant bout of salmonella, exclamation marks queuing frantically in my emails to decorate each sentence with bunting and balloons. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I'm trying to delete them. So much effort to unlearn everything about growing up in pretty dresses. Do you remember that night, watching telly? You said you didn't see the point of women over 30. You said it, then left to grab a biscuit, as if nobody had died. Words tossed onto the sofa like a simple observation, like a favour, like a suicide letter.
That is one of my favourite poems from the book as well. I think partly because I resonate with it so much as someone who, apologizes. And I've been told I apologize too much and for no good reason. And I was thinking about it actually just now as you read it out. I work in a job where I'm sort of customer facing and I have to, write messages and things. And as I was doing my training, I had someone supervising me and I was drafting up a response and they'd kind of helped me write it. And if I was to write it, I would have put an exclamation mark, maybe a smiley face, all these things. And they were like, okay, you can send it now. And I said, but doesn't it sound a bit mean?
Yeah.
This guy looked at me and was like, no, what are you talking about? And so I was like hearing that poem. I'm like, it's just this, I don't know, this feeling of need to kind of cushion everything.
Yeah.
I just...
It's so difficult though, isn't it? Because it's like, I've been told by like many different men, like not to lose my girliness or not to become too serious or not to not take a joke and all this sort of stuff. But it was always just when I was like talking about something I think is serious or something I'm really like passionate about. And this idea, like I've been so worried not to be attractive to the men that I least want to be attractive to. And I'm not even like, I'm in like such a fucking great relationship. But even then I still feel like I've been told all my life that I just have to be like fancied anyway by like random bit like it's. And I think because I remember someone telling us, oh guys don't speak to you if they're not like interested in you like that and all this sort of stuff that I've also found has been absolute bullshit about most men that I've met and most men that I've wanted to be friends with. There's so much stuff about what men are like and what women are like. It's so dull and it's so boring. But with that I also think I don't want to take them all away because part of it is like trying to get a balance of what part of that is me trying to basically apologize for ever being serious in life. Oh, I'm really sorry that I've got an opinion about something. I'm really sorry I don't find your shit joke funny, or I'm, not wanting anyone to think that I'm too serious. But I obviously am serious. Like it's ridiculous. But then partly I also think the way a lot of women communicate with people, and not always, but that sort of exclamation-y, bunting-y side of things, I also like the friendliness of a lot of emails that I have with people now because it's become less formal, and men and women, and there is a lot more of that. So I feel like I'd rather we found a balance rather than certain people or young people or women cutting off all their balloons out of their like emails. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't really want to be like, oh yes, thank you, this is whatever. I'd really like to be like, oh, thanks very much, really hope you have a nice day, blah blah blah. Like I like the friendliness of it. So it's that kind of balance. I don't need like 10 exclamation marks and to apologize. I apologized to someone yesterday for it raining. Like it started raining and we were walking to a gig. So I write these poems because I'm not fucking there yet and I need to remind myself. That's why I do it, not because I'm like everyone else, you shouldn't use exclamation marks. But I was like, oh God, I'm so sorry that it started raining. And my boyfriend was like, Holly, did you just apologize for that? Did you
For
just
the weather.
apologize for the rain? It's like, yeah, I did. I just apologized for the rain.
Yeah. As if
On
it was
behalf
my fault that it started raining.
on behalf of the weather, I'm really
Yeah.
sorry. It started raining.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, it's
What's one of those things actually that I noticed like in our email communications, it stuck out to me because it was so nice. And so it felt like, not that, when I'm emailing other people, they don't feel human. Of course they feel human, but it just
yeah,
felt a bit more like friendly and more relaxed. And it was
yeah,
more similar, I think, to an interaction you might have if you were, I don't know, chatting with someone on the phone or if you were with them in person. It was
yeah.
really nice.
Oh, that's good. And that's how I think that's how I like to write as well in general. I think there's such a difference, isn't there, from basically acting like you know less or acting, I hate the word stupid, but like less knowledgeable about stuff and then being
Mm,
friendly. There's such a balance to it. But
mm,
if you watch that, I really love that I live in. I know people hate social media, but I feel like I lived in a world as a teenager and in my 20s where there wasn't like people speaking back to stuff. I was given beauty magazines,
mm,
which taught me a lot of shit, but there was no one on social media being like, actually, that's maybe not a great thing. And there
mm,
wasn't, that every magazine had like apparently a warring pop star and it was always two women that hated each other. But I
mm.
didn't have their Instagram to be like, this has just been put on the front page of the magazine. It's a load of rubbish. Like we're talking
Yeah.
to each other now. So loads of stuff
Mm,
like
mm.
that I feel like is much better now. There's obviously very negative sides to it, like there was negative sides to stuff back then. But I also
Mm,
love that I think there was 4 TV stations when I was a teenager and then we got more and more. But they were all controlled by like the CEO or the person that had to decide what to put on the telly. Um, and the same with the books that were published. And now we've got more and more. I know some people don't like having more voices and like everyone have an opinion, but I really like it. I think the
mm,
films are better. I think the stuff that you see on YouTube, some of it's absolutely amazing.
mm,
Um, there was a reason I was saying this, but now I can't remember. I feel like oh yeah, there was just a lot. I just remember a lot of like really the sort of female characters you get. And there are a few Instagram channels and I can't flip and remember their tags, but where they look at books that have been written about women. And it's like a
mm.
joke thing, like, how can you tell that this author from the 18th century was a man? And just like all these characters giggling all the time and lots of like things about their breasts, like bouncing in rhythm with like the conversation at the table, all this stuff. And I love it that
Mm,
instead of just being like, I can't imagine what my gran must have been like. Like she was so frustrated all the time about stuff, but she couldn't
mm.
have like got into bed and scrolled at night and just laughed a bit more about it,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I think is amazing that you can do that now and be like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is this
Absolutely.
writing? What is this sex scene? Like, how is she already screaming? And
Mm,
he is just like kissed her on the neck and she's screaming.
mm.
Like, what is this? But it's so nice to be able to laugh and then do something about it. And yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's quite validating, I think. That's what I enjoy probably the most about TikTok is being able to kind of see something and then open the comments and see what everyone else is saying and
oh,
how
it's
they're all,
amazing.
interacting with each other and the different opinions and maybe all having a laugh together going, we all collectively think this is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Um, I love it. It
it's
makes me, yeah, seeing all those voices out there.
me too. I love it as well. And I see loads of stuff from people my age all the time because I guess my whole childhood was like no social media, no internet. So we're like
Mm,
the generation that it like flipped in our 20s sort of thing. And it's all this like beautiful music about, oh, when I was a teenager, we actually went to each other's houses and we were cycling our bikes and knocking on the doors and like playing in the woods. It's like, no, we weren't just doing that. We were also getting fed racist tropes on telly, sexist tropes on telly. Like, we were getting the shittest stuff written in magazines. Teenage girls magazines were fucking atrocious. We were getting like so much diet culture on television with no one being able to like say anything back to it. And like lots of people I know, there's always this thing about Enid Blyton books. And people are like, oh my God, and you know, I just want my kid to be safe away from the internet and read Enid Blyton books. Like, Enid Blyton books are like racist. Like, why do you want your kid? And also, there's loads of bad stuff online, loads of bad stuff. I don't want my kid addicted to a phone, but there's also, like, you can actually also find stuff through your children. Like, there's so much music they're listening to. There's like Beta Squad that my daughter watches. I think is so funny. And I'd much rather she was watching that than reading Enid Blyton books or some of the movies or books from when I was her age. There's so much great stuff out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing is sort of there's always bad things, but there's also really good things too. And I think it's really nice that people now can connect and sort of, it's not just that one way transfer of opinions and information, which I think is really valuable.
Me too.
Just quickly, because I'm aware that it's been 45 minutes. I don't want to keep you for too long, but I just thought it was a nice place to end. So the last section of your book is all about making love, and all the poems are called Making Love. And I think I would just like to, I guess, ask you how your opinion of that phrase has changed over time and what's led to that evolution for you.
So that was literally only a year ago. And it's a bit like with the last book, I wrote the word moist and vulva loads so that I would stop being such a fanny about it, but that's probably not a good thing. I'm trying to find the quote that's in the book. So this section, none of the sections were called Making Anything when I first put the first draft of the book together. And I was trying to work out where to put, like, because I had poems that are like love poems, but they're love poems on that kind of idea of getting more experienced and, you know, like things that you, like a mug that you've drunk from for years. It's like got special memories now, and hugs being better when you know people better and all that kind of thing. So they were like in one section, but then there were loads of these love poems that all had different titles. And then I read this quote from Ursula Le Guin. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I hope it is. Which is, love doesn't just sit there like a stone. It has to be made like bread, remade all the time, made new. And I think it just made me separate the two, like making and love. And I was like, oh, there's loads of phrases like that, like making friends and making peace with yourself and like that sort of thing. And then I was thinking, oh, that's a much nicer way to use it. And actually, why the hell making love is just, it had this like creepy voiceover, basically from these sort of movies, like, oh, I'm going to make love, like this sort of thing. Or maybe I just wasn't really mature enough to appreciate that kind of like intimate talk, possibly, when I first heard it. So I thought, why do I hate that? Like, why do I hate the phrase so much? And I think it's like a lot. It's sort of been maybe ruined by how it's been said by certain older guys in my life. And I was like, no, you're not having it as well. Like, I've wrote loads in another book about how they're not having these sort of certain words that I've heard guys say, like breasts. I hated the word breast for so long because one guy said it to me when I was like 15 and another person's dad said it to one of my friends, and I was like, oh, his breast, and it's just in his voice and from his mouth. And I was like, fuck this, man, this is like my body part, like you're not having it. And I felt the same about making love, and I just like this idea. So I changed every poem title to Making Love, because I thought even the ones that are about, you know, finding out what I like, that's about making love. Or even the one about making friends, that's about making love, really. Or sending a postcard is about making love. But I also thought if I called them all that, then I'd get so used to it that I'd be like really cool with it by the end of the tour. And I'm getting
okay, I was going to ask that, how's that going?
Yeah, I think I'm getting that. I'm thinking of it like bread. I think like making full stop, like making love. Yeah, I'm getting there. And I do want to, when I have sex, whether or not it's like, you know, if you are in love with someone, you still like make love a bit with your bodies if it's like good. I don't really want to, I wouldn't want to be like intimate with someone if it wasn't, you know, making love in that sort of broad idea of it. I think I think I'm getting better. It's still a little bit like, yeah, that sort of thing.
And have you found with words like vulva and moist, like after the last book, like how do you feel with those words now?
I reckon vulva. Right, I genuinely think I'm totally fine with saying it, which I fucking should be at like 42 years old, because I have one and it's so ridiculous if I'm not. But I don't blame myself now for hating things or being squeamish about stuff, because culture is strong. But the thing that that I'm still not all right with is that when people like give me stuff to do with vulvas and think I'll love it. So I've
Okay.
been given like a t-shirt with like a vulva on it. With a vulva on it. People give me like vulva stuff all the time, and not all the time, but like 5 times a year on tour. And it's not even like I don't like want them, but I'm still not all right with people thinking I'm someone that is like wants to talk about vulvas all the time. Like that's where I'm not. I'm not there. I'm not there. I'm not so comfortable with it that I wouldn't prefer people to think I found it hard to say it. But that's so ridiculous. But it's so ingrained, so it's fine. I'm not blaming myself. But yeah, I'm all right with saying vulva. I'd be fine saying it at the doctor, which is, why I'd need it, or fine saying it, God, forbid, or to having to say it to the police or anything at any point. But it's still like it still feels different coming out of my mouth than saying like hate or murder. That's fine. That's more fine. Making love. Yeah. It's also because you know that everyone around you has not written a 300-page book about it and toured it for a year to be comfortable with it. So I know that my mate who I'll say it to is thinking, oh, Holly, fuck's sake.
It's actually, I know exactly what you mean, because I'm very similar. I'm saying words like this all the time, working at Sex and Space. And then I realize when I'm talking to people, I'm so comfortable with it. Well, I'm more comfortable with it than I was a few years ago, for sure.
Yeah.
But then I kind of go, actually, you sort of see like a little reaction sometimes, and you go, oh, actually, like I have remembered now that this person doesn't do the same work that I do and doesn't say the same words that I do 4 nights a week. So they're going to have
say that again.
that
Say
reaction
that again. You cut out of it.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say,
but I really want to hear what you said.
Like, like speaking to people who haven't, been saying those specific words like 4 nights a week for the last 3 or 4 years of their life, they are going to have a bit of like a different reaction. Whereas for me, I don't often think about it anymore until I see the reaction, and then I go, I've said vulva, I've said virginity, I've said, something. And then when you see the reaction, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. But I think those things also help other people too, when you're having conversations and then they start to feel all right about it because you're feeling all right about it when you're talking with them.
Yeah, totally. It's so true. And I really hope it's not like, I remember somebody, and it was a guy on the radio, called in because we were talking about that word and talking about masturbation, like that being part of sex education in schools. And he called in and was like, oh, for God's sake, this is a bit ridiculous. Like, it's not hard to say it. And, people know about masturbation. Like, you start masturbating. You don't need to be taught to start masturbating. And I was like, yeah, but you also do need to be taught that it's okay, and you do need to be taught what it is. Maybe not if you're a guy, it's not quite the same, but there's not like a thing that happens in your body and you're like, how do I get this down? What is happening? Like, it's not. And I thought, actually, nah, you do. And it's annoying that you do. But he said he was talking as well about, like, it was about that and that leading to like orgasm inequality, because loads of girls didn't know how to make themselves orgasm before they then gave someone else an orgasm, and how many boys gave themselves one before they gave someone else one compared to how many girls gave someone else one, especially in straight relationships, before they gave themselves one. And he was like, oh, but being like sort of rubbish at stuff is like part of growing up. Like, it's part of it's like the funny stuff of like teenage relationships. And it was like, oh, we don't want them to not have that kind of innocence. And I was like, it's not being rubbish. it's like going through your whole teenage years with boys having orgasms and girls not having orgasms, like, which is the case with a lot of people. Like, it's not the fumbling fun bit. Like, you can have that. You're still going to be worried, nervous, giggling, but it would also be nice if like they were also having an orgasm. That's all.
Absolutely.
And it's like, it's not a fumbling thing, and it's not a thing about being young or teenage. It's a thing about having a totally imbalanced media, sex education, and whole culture around girls and boys' bodies. Like, it's nothing to do with young innocence. It's to do with censorship and shame. So that sort of thing. And I think I constantly write these books because I don't want people to wait till their 30s. Like, people are like, oh yeah, and then when you get into your 30s, you start to know yourself better. And then by your 40s, I was like, well, I don't want the next generation of kids to be having like a shameful or an unpleasurable time until they're 35. What?
Yeah.
Why do we want that? It's nothing to do with growing up. It's to do with, all of the above. But it annoyed me. It annoyed me.
I totally understand, and I get exactly what you mean. And I think, if we can bring that age down and make it so that young people are having a more enjoyable time before they reach 35, before they reach, whatever age that it's been. Why not?
Why not?
We should.
Yeah, one of my boyfriend said, he was like, yeah, because like we still didn't know what we were doing, but we were still coming left, right, and centre. I think was how he put it. That's like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it wasn't like the best you've ever had, but you were still coming all the time.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which would make
couldn't have put a better
whatever. However, it wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
Still sounds all right compared to most of the girls I talked to.
Absolutely.
Just quote him. I really liked it.
And Hollie, just before we finish, me too. I really like that phrase. For our listeners, if they would like to go out and buy a copy of your book, if they want to come and see you on tour, where can they find you? Where can they do all of those things?
I have a website, which is Hollie with an IE, in case you're seeing it, McNish, MCNISH.com. I think it's holliepoetry.com. Either one of them work, actually. holliepoetry.com or holliemcnish.com. And that has all my tour dates and everything on it, and all my social media that you can find. And I'm saying that just in case like Meta closed down any of my social medias. I'm panicking about it. So I've got a website. I'll say that first. But I guess I put more stuff than anywhere else up on Instagram, which is at Hollie with an IE poetry.
Amazing. And for our listeners, I will put all of the links to those in the episode description too, if you would like to find those there. And Hollie, thank you so much for your time. I could have spoken to you for 3 hours, I'm sure, but I'm going to keep it to 1 for your sake and for the sake of our listeners. But I really appreciate you coming back a second time and chatting about your work, because I think that it's really valuable, and it's work that I do really treasure reading and having access to. So thank you.
It's all right. Thanks a lot for reading it, and it helps me to write it. So it's really nice that I can do that.